Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Hello, this is Kat Miller. It is Tuesday, March 15th, 2011, and I am here talking with Dane Kirby. He is a shaman, and he's a very good friend of mine. I met him several months back, and we talk frequently. Just really has been a great experience working with him, and I thought I would introduce you to him. And so, Dane, welcome to you.
Thanks, Kat. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Hey, there are a lot of people that have no idea what a shaman is. Do you want to explain what a shaman is to them?
Well, truthfully, it actually would depend on the culture for a lot of people, but take it as a loosely defined rule that a shaman is the person that leads for the village and takes care of the village health. So you intercede with the village with, if you want to say, other powers, higher, things like that. So a shaman is somebody that takes care of the village. And in today's world, with the Internet, it's a global village.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Well, tell us then, I mean, you were pretty general there. Tell us then more about the specifics of what you are as a shaman. I know that you do things besides just the main shamanistic stuff that you work with Reiki and a few other things. Just give us a little bit of what exactly are you?
Well, I are incredibly good looking. How's that?
Yes.
There we go. I'm a legend in my own mind. See how the universe wraps around you when you say these things?
Indeed.
No, truthfully, I can say I started as a kid. I grew up in the Deep South. Grew up with a lot of folks that were different, shall we say, swamp-type people, things like that. Some people would say they were as wild as the other animals in the swamp. But I ended up growing up around a lot of just gathered knowledge and wisdom. And I was the one kid that was interested in all this. To give you an idea of how common things are between cultures, a friend of mine that's a very Tai Chi master, we got talking one day about tree Qigong, which is borrowing energy from trees. And I said, oh, you mean this? And I did something. And he goes, wow, where'd you learn that? I said, well, somebody taught that to me when I was a kid on how to talk with trees and work with the energy of trees. So here he is from, teaching a Chinese martial art on how to use trees. And here I was growing up in the Deep South, learning how to talk with trees and borrow their energy, completely different worlds, and we were doing the exact same thing, just doing it a little differently.
Fascinating,
so
isn't it?
It's just fascinating how we're all the same. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world, anything like that. And, whatever skin color you got on the outside really has no meaning. We're the same.
Indeed.
So that's what makes it all fun. And that's also what makes it easier to work with people. Because, no matter what, we're all the same, we're coming from the same place, and we're most likely headed to the same place. And it's easier if you do it together.
Indeed. We are social, aren't we? We love to be around people. People matter to us. And one of the things that kind of is interesting is so many people think that they are so alone and that they're the only ones that experience what they experience. And, you open up, you talk about it, you discover you're not the only one, that it's very human. The things that you experience are experienced pretty universally.
And, you say that, it gets me thinking about, I have confused, my wife for sure. I'm not sure why she married me other than, hey, she's a wonderful person. And she decided that I needed somebody, it looks like. I married up, what can I say? But we won't tell her that. I found out over the years that I have friends that are priests, rabbis, monks, imams, and everybody says, how can you do that? And I said, well, how can I not do that? I said, every single one of them is doing the same thing I am. They're working to keep the village and the community together, to help it be greater as an organization or as a group, and keeping it on the spiritual path to something higher. And that's really what it comes down to. And I've actually been told that by priests and Muslims, rabbis. This isn't something I came up with because I got smart many years ago and started studying from everybody. There's no limit on where you can learn from. And as you showed me when you rolled in the door and we first met, you showed me things I'd never even heard of. All of a sudden, it made my life a lot simpler because I was able to adapt it to what I did.
Isn't that awesome?
And you know me, I'm kind of a hands-on, rough and ready type, so anything that makes it simpler, well, that means I can get to more people. And the more people I can help, the better we are off as a race of beings.
Indeed. Reach out and touch somebody. Huh?
Yeah. And, along with what you said also, we don't want to be alone as people. We always want to be with somebody. Even the grouchiest people want to be around somebody, even if it's just a grouch too. But the only time we truly are alone is when we cut ourselves off from the divine. The divine never cuts off from us. We're the ones that turn it off. And usually we do it because we're angry. And so anger gets in our way. It doesn't get in the divine's way. Or we're scared. So the fear gets in our way. So we make it to where we can't hear or act or see or be touched by the divine, but it's always there.
Exactly.
And
you're not left alone. You're not left alone. You leave yourself out of it.
You've taken yourself out of the loop. And my role, I've found out over the years, is to bring people back into that. And whether they're really scared or they're really angry at, let's say, well, this is America, so most folks were raised Christian. So they're angry at God because something happened. Their mom died, like in my case, something like that. And once you bleed that anger off of them and bleed the fear off of them, and dissipate it and teach them how to make sure it doesn't come back and energize them, then suddenly they're back with the universe. And they're connected again, and then they can get doing what they're meant to do in this world.
Yes. Awesome. I wanted to tell people a little bit about how you and I met. And we were very blessed. There was somebody that needed help, and you were called in. And I was kind of on the outskirts during this whole time when you were first called in because we live far apart from each other. I'm down in Arizona, you're up in Michigan. And I was just kind of had a friend that had told me about somebody in trouble and was asking me to focus and kind of give advice and such. And eventually, after you had started working with this person, I wound up, we'll just call her Jane. I wound up being asked if I would come up there and work with her too. And Dane, my first impression of you came when I got off the plane and I was heading to baggage claim. I turned on my phone and there was a message there, and it was you. You had said, "Hey, I hear you're coming in. Want to know if you need a ride from the airport? Just give me a call if you need a ride from the airport to the hotel, and I'll come out and take care of you." And I thought, wow, this is just such a sweet guy. I really look forward to meeting him. And I gave you a quick ring back and told you that I had transportation to the hotel and that I'd call you once I got into the hotel. And then when I did get to the hotel and called you, we had a good 45-minute or longer conversation. And I knew that the reason I was in Michigan went far beyond Jane, went far beyond her husband, went far beyond anybody there, that part of a very big part of why I was called to Michigan had to do with Kat and Dane. Don't you agree?
Yeah, totally. I definitely agree with that. So, because I remember leaving the message for you, and I believe I was like, "Welcome to the Motor City," and I kind of snuck a peek before you got here and said, oh, wow, somebody's coming that knows what they're doing. Yes, because the situation was getting large, and it definitely needed other hands than mine. There needed to be more of a community effort here. And so I was very glad that, wow, here's somebody on a plane that knows what's going on, knows what they're doing, and this is neat. I'm going to enjoy this because, wow, I get to learn more things. And also, let's see how it works when we work together, because we are very, very different in our application of things.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I remember you, for the most part, are drawing through your own energy in a lot of the work that you do. And I remember a comment that your wife made when she watched me work one time about how's she doing this? She's not using her own energy. What's up with this? Excuse me. And so it was really a different view from you to see what I was doing, and it was just amazing to come in there and to work with you. I have to tell everybody that several, probably many times, we worked in tandem. One of us would be with Jane on one side of the bed and the other on the other side of the bed, or one of us would be touching her, working with her, doing our energy work and whatever with her, and the other would be touching and channeling in through the person who was doing the work. And there were so many instances where we were just working together. And
the nice thing about it is it made us stronger.
Yeah.
We had a nice synergy going there. So the two combined were much more than the two separate. Yes, indeed.
I recall specifically one time. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to clarify one thing there, and my wife has said it before, and also something I want to make sure people understand. I don't use my own energy unless it's really, really something that has to happen. But most people would consider me an earth shaman, if you really want to break it down into a name, if that matters. So I tend to use earth energy, or it uses me as the channel in many cases. So that's why a lot of people say, "Wow, you're a lot larger than I think you are," and I'm not a huge guy, but it has to do with all the earth energy that's always with me. So I want people to understand: don't use your own energy. You can run out too quickly, and if you don't know how to rebuild your own energy, you can get hurt. So it's more of a case of borrowing.
You can draw energy. There's so many places
you would call professionals.
There's so many places you can draw your energy from. You can draw it from the earth. You can draw it from the sun. You can draw it from the moon. You can draw it from the stars.
Right.
You just need to direct, where do you want this energy to come from? And yes, you direct it through you to them. But a lot of the work I do doesn't even involve doing that. It's just a matter of balancing. I work with total body modification and natural healing, and with those, you're really just balancing them out. You're not using your own energy so much at all, or pulling any energy from anywhere. You're just balancing them, and that's one of the things that's kind of interesting with that, working with that. I recall, I don't remember, and maybe you do, what it was about, but I recall you were driving me back to the hotel one time and talking about something to get rid of negative energies or something, and all of a sudden pulsars were there. Do you remember that?
Sorry, it broke up. All of a sudden, what was there?
Pulsars.
Oh, yeah.
You were asking about getting rid of negativity or something. I don't remember the specific situation, but I remember that I pulled on pulsars and you immediately went to them.
Well, I tapped into, I guess you would say, Jane's journey, because I wanted to see what was going on, at what level this was happening, and she was processing thousands of years of life and clearing it out of the way, and I was like, wow, sure would be nice to be able to help her bleed that off to where it's not too much, because she has to work through it. But at the same time, it would be very nice to, to set that up to where she has access to all the energy she wants while filtering it, the energy she's burning off as she moves forward, some way to clear that out of the area. And that's when the pulsar came up. Mm-hmm. And so now there was the whole thing that, and I just hadn't seen it until you said it. And it's amazing how once somebody points something out, you're like, wow, how could we have missed that, That's very obvious. And then that's where it came in with the pulsar.
Yeah, that was
using that to clear the energy, and also at the same time using it as a filter to funnel good energy back into the situation for her greater good.
Yeah, but it was just so fascinating working with you with that particular case, and we talk from time to time about other things as things come and go, but that was just part of the magic of working together on that particular case. Was just how there was just a synergy between us. Mm-hmm. If I had a question, you had an answer. If you had a question, I had an answer.
Right. And we were able to help each other out as far as things that we all have stuff we have trouble dealing with ourselves, but for somebody else it's not an issue. And so that was neat that we were able to do that for each other as well. And things that we've been working on, just they were just things. And here we came along and helped each other out to clear those things out of the way. Yeah. And it made us better. And that's the nice thing about working with somebody else that you click with, is you are more than the individuals when you do that.
Oh, I'm remembering another time. While we were working with Jane, we had some special days where there were, I guess you would call them theme days. And this is really kind of a fascinating thing that happened this particular day. She had been moved from one room to another, and when she was moved, they didn't put all the decorations back up in her room. Mm-hmm. And that morning when I went to breakfast, I had gotten a message that I couldn't decorate my hash browns. I thought that was the most strange way of phrasing. You can't put salt or pepper or salsa or anything on your hash browns. You're going to have to eat your hash browns plain. And I thought, oh, this is so weird. I can't decorate my hash browns. What's up with that? Anyway, I got into the hospital room that day, and even though she was in a coma, even though she didn't seem to be with us, she was aware that the decorations had not been put back up, and that was the message that she gave me, because I walked into her room, and I stopped, and I looked around, and I said, none of the decor is up, is it? And her husband looked at me and said, well, we haven't had a chance to. I said, yeah, well, I want to decorate my hash browns tomorrow. And that afternoon, you showed up with a poster.
But that's not something I do. I don't do artwork and design like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You didn't know. You didn't know that I'd gotten the message about the decorating. All you knew was, I want to do this. I need to do this for our patient, for our Jane. Yeah. And lo and behold, there we are.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead, Tom. That's the problem with phones. We keep running into each other because we're so excited. Go ahead, dear.
Yeah, well, it was just one of those things that was just awesome in working with you. But it's also something for everybody to pay attention to. Listen to what's going on. The first thing, do you remember, was it like the first or second day that I was there that you came up with the coffee?
Yeah. And I'm not a coffee person, especially at night. I stopped at the coffee hut downstairs, and I ordered a coffee with, I believe it was, and I got 2 sugars and cream in it, and I'm going, I'm not going to drink this. Must be somebody up in the room that wants it. So I brought it up there and said, who wants the coffee with 2 sugars and cream?
Nobody wanted it, did they?
Yeah, and everybody's looking around, and then you came up and realized who it was.
Yeah, I did. And I called my son. I hadn't talked to him since I'd flown out of Tucson, and he's always heavy on the sugar, heavy on the cream.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was not paying much attention because it's like, no, Cassie, that's not me. Obviously, it's somebody else around. And when I kept hearing you ask specifically, does her husband? No, he takes the plane. Does she? No, she takes the plane. Do you? You're asking all around the room, and it's like, I don't drink coffee. I'm not, And I realized nobody is taking this coffee. Nobody is. And you're going, hey, I paid $1.85 for this coffee. Who is this?
Somebody's wanting something.
Yeah. Suddenly it hit me. That's Brent's coffee. That's my son's coffee. I haven't talked to him since I left. And so
when you called him, what happened?
Just talked with him, got to know what was going on with him, where things were with them. It was really, Mom, hello, you've been gone a few days and you haven't called me yet. And, he doesn't know when to call me. Let's see, that time of year, we were 2 hours here in Tucson, 2 hours behind you. Mm-hmm. And so it was hard for him to know when was a good time to call me. And so that was kind of a message for me to call him. But it was in realization of that I began to pay much closer attention and listened and heard what messages were coming through. And I acknowledged these messages coming through. We had a number of theme days go on. Mm-hmm. One of them was one of the first ones. I had just gotten out of the shower, and I was getting ready to get dressed, and when I reached into the closet to get something to wear, I suddenly realized I needed to wear my pink shirt. And so I put on my pink shirt, and as I was putting it on, I thought, okay, today's a pink day for me. And I heard in my head and everybody else. And I realized I needed to get the word out to everybody that we were wearing pink today. And pink is the color of love. Mm-hmm. So there I was putting on pink and telling everyone else, wear pink today or put on pink or have pink on you today, make it a pink day today. I started thinking, okay, well, we are making then a circle of love. Mm-hmm. And as I thought circle of love, I heard myself being corrected to love circle. And I thought, okay, a circle of love, that's where love is around the perimeter. It's a pink around the perimeter circle. Whereas a love circle, everything inside it is pink. Everything is pink. It's all infiltrated and engulfed with love. That's the difference between a circle of love and a love circle. Mm-hmm. And so it was just really fascinating to see the little things that happened and get the messages. There was one day, this was really something that made me just feel like crying. I had told Jane's husband that we needed to pick up a book for her. I didn't know what kind of book or anything. What does she like to read? And he kind of had the attitude that she's more into the business books and stuff, and so I don't know. Anyway, we stopped and we looked at books, and there were a couple of them that highlighted for me to buy, and so I bought one of them. And that day, he left the hospital for a little while, and just after he was going over to the office, and just after he left, I sat down and started to read the book. I was like, in the first couple of paragraphs, I hit one point where the word home was in the middle of a sentence. And as soon as I said home, I got goosebumps everywhere. My eyes started to tear up. and I realized that she needed to have pictures of her house in her hospital room. She was missing her home. And so I promptly called her husband and told her so. And when he came back that afternoon with pictures from inside and outside and all around their house. But I was in touch. And that's something, when you are dealing with somebody who is sick, in a coma, anything like that, you want to be aware. Realize that if you have something a little bit out of the ordinary, like this is going back to the theme days again, one morning I had to order a caramel cream coffee in the morning. And it was really kind of funny. It was the morning after we had a crazy day. We had this day where everybody had to do something totally out of character for them, be just totally crazy, not so crazy. And I thought I did that. But apparently I was judged that I did not do that. Because the following morning, as I was heading to breakfast, I just heard this. You know, you weren't crazy yesterday. Yes, I was. I wore the hat upside down and inside out. I didn't. Yeah, no, that's normal, Kat. You do crazy things. You weren't crazy. You're going to have to drink coffee at breakfast this morning. And I had this argument. No way. I don't like coffee. People around me have been drinking coffee my whole adult life. I don't like coffee. I won't drink coffee. I haven't had any coffee in probably over 30 years. And the last time I had any coffee, it was half a swallow, and that was all I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the way to breakfast, I was arguing. And when I got to breakfast, I sat down and I ordered a caramel cream coffee. And I drank it, and I enjoyed it. But I probably wouldn't enjoy it today because I just don't care for coffee. I mean, people talk about the mocha, the chocolate mocha stuff with coffee and chocolate together. You know, I do enjoy chocolate, but I've tasted that. I don't like that. There's that mocha ice cream. I don't like that. And so it just really, really was surprising to me that I, first of all, actually conceded and ordered coffee, and then I actually drank it.
You better watch out, dear. There might be a little shaman in that blood. That does happen. You're, when you're really doing deep shamanic work, that you find out that you have to do certain things, or you have an affinity for things that you normally wouldn't even touch. And if you do them, it's amazing how things change and things work. And over the decades of experience I've got on that, and talking with others, I've come to the conclusion that it's more a case of I'm not having to do it for the person that I'm working for. I'm having to do it to deal with my own ego, to get it out of the way so that I can do a better job for that person, if you want to call it a job. It has nothing to do, in a lot of ways, with the client or the person you're working with as much as it has to do with the universe says, look, I want you to do this today, and you believe in me, then you're going to do it. And you do. So better watch out. Sounding kind of shamany there, dear.
Well, to me, it reads as I am connected. I understand you. I am able to get into your energy here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm getting your messages. I'm hearing you. And that's what I was saying to our Jane Doe. You know, that's what I'm calling her, Jane Doe. Just so that people, know it's not her real name. I was letting her know through all of the crazy things we did, all of the things that came up that I got messages on. I mean, there was a surprise day. I told her husband, I've had this feeling this evening that tomorrow's going to be one of those same days. It's going to be one of those same days. I just know it. And then in the morning there was nothing, and I was just totally surprised that there was nothing. There were no messages, nothing. And he asked me over lunch, he looks at me and said, Kat, you told me last night that you thought that today would be theme day. And I looked at him, and I said, I was really surprised. And as I said, surprise, I heard, surprise. And so everybody did something to surprise that day. And I got a surprise when I got back from lunch. There was an email that was a very important email to the theme of surprise that was waiting for me. And so we worked with that. And it was just, there was just one thing after another. Speaking of my son, going back to my son too, on the day that our Jane was being transferred from one hospital to another, my son, who never, ever comes onto a chat, especially while he's at work, contacted me on a chat program while I was in the hospital room with our Jane. And he started talking about the Fibonacci sequence, but he didn't know how to spell Fibonacci, and so I was having difficulty figuring out what he was talking about. When he finally got across that he was talking about the Fibonacci sequence, I immediately knew that he wanted me to play the Quantum K healing sequence for her. And what's really quite fascinating is at the moment that he told me that and I started it playing, I didn't know that she was going to be transferred from that hospital that day. I got a call just after I started it playing from her husband saying, look, the transfer team's going to be there any minute. We're transferring her to this other hospital. And the transfer team got there, and I got displaced out of the room like 10 seconds after I finished playing that Quantum K healing thing. I thought that was absolutely amazing. First of all, someone who never is on Messenger is on Messenger, and he's telling me, you got to do something with this. I don't know what it's about except Fibonacci. It's Fibonacci. Oh, Fibonacci, keyword. That tells me Quantum K. And there's another experience I had with you while we were working with Jane, and you might recall the night. Quite some time before that, as I had been introduced to the Quantum K free healing video that I did use with our Jane several times, I knew that there was some kind of an error or something in there. I didn't know exactly what it was, and I knew that it wasn't making a difference, that it would not cause any problems using that. There was just something that was just not aligned quite right, and I still don't know exactly what it is. But as time progressed, I was broadcasting some healing cards from the Sanjeevini healing and Vibrational Balancing healing. But I was broadcasting those to our girl, to Jane, in her hospital room. And in the background, I was playing different music stuff. And at one point, one evening, I was doing the broadcast, and I put up the Quantum K healing. And then you were there, and when you went to start to work, you said, I can't do it with that particular, whatever that music is that you've got going on. Can't be playing while I'm doing what I'm doing. And I thought it was really quite fascinating that for months before that, I knew that there was something inconsistent somewhere in that. And all of a sudden, there you are saying, I can't have you playing that. You can play the Chinese healing music, you can play those drums, you can play all of these different things, but don't play that one while I'm doing my work. And I thought it was really fascinating. And you also didn't have an issue with me doing the broadcast that I had on. I had a continuous broadcast going with the healing cards. Anyway, I thought that was really fascinating to see this and get the same readings off of you that I'd been reading on different things.
Yeah, it was changing the resonance, and unfortunately, for the resonance we were headed for, it was the wrong thing. It was actually, to me, all I could perceive it as was like just a big giant anchor dragging things down, or holding them in place, kind of. And so that's why I was like, no, we can't. For some reason, it's wrong. It may be perfectly great for other things, but for the situation we were in, it just wasn't right. But the video was fine. The video part of it, there was no issue. It had something to do with the sound of it.
Yeah, and, very, very fascinating.
That's and then, that you had said about, we kept having, surprise day and change it up day and crazy day just to keep things going. And that had a drastic effect on a lot of the staff taking care of her. And that's the one thing I've run across over the decades is the staff can really make or break a lot of what's going on. They can make our job a lot harder. And they can get a lot easier. And to the point that when we moved to the new hospital, it started weeding people out. That they would be like, oh, you guys are so great and happy. We want to hang out with you guys. Because we were in a ward where things weren't great. But then to the point also with her husband, he specifically would make a point of, we will talk outside about anything. We will not talk where Jane can hear you. Because you don't know what state she's in that situation. You don't know what's going on exactly. You don't know what'll stick. And wasn't something you didn't mean anything bad by, but that's how it sticks for her. So that really changed it up a lot. And really, if anybody out there ever ends up in a situation like this with long-term care or a coma, the staff makes a huge difference. And you really kind of have to wrangle them. It's kind of like herding cats, too. And to the point that her husband actually did say that, 2 or 3 different people not to come back. And it made a huge difference when he did that. And, the people, you didn't want the people around that were just going through the motions. Worst case, they were kind of neutral, but there actually were people that we would get that were just like, oh, whatever, it's never going to get any better. That kind of attitude.
More than once there were references from nurses or other support staff there about, it's really hard to see somebody who's in a vegetative state and will be in it for the rest of their lives, and when family will not just let things go or whatever. And those kinds of things said to us, especially if they were said in the room, can really have a detrimental effect on the patient. And by the way, just so that people here that might be listening to this know, our girl, our Jane Doe, who was in severe shape, in a coma for about 3 months, is now virtually 100% recovered. She has all faculties back and is able to function. And so they were wrong every time that they said that she would not progress any further, or they thought that this is probably the best you're going to get. And there were times when she bought into that. Pardon?
Well, they even have given her such a clean bill of health in areas that were supposed to be fatal, if you want to say it that way, are keeping her in that state, and they're like, you can't tell there was ever an issue now. And that's the whole point of it. You've got to get the staff either working for you or definitely not against you. And truthfully, most people don't mean to work against you. It's just they see it day in, day out, and they need somebody to give them a hug, too. I call it, most people have experienced with too many hits and not enough hugs. And that's literally what I end up dealing with in most cases is, getting rid of all the hits people have taken so they can feel the hugs. And, I have to admit, that's a tough job that the nurses and the doctors have where we were at. In the end of the hospital. And it
I recall,
unless you have an outlet.
I recall the first time I walked into that hospital room, how heavy the atmosphere was there. It was quite melancholy. Pardon?
Which one, the first hospital or the second?
Yeah, it would have been the second. Well, the first hospital I walked into.
Okay, so
which was the second one that she'd been in. The atmosphere was very melancholy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a major ongoing struggle.
And I knew the moment I walked in there that I needed to break things up. I needed to bring healing to her friends, her family, in her room,
mm-hmm.
so that she could feel it and see the shifts and understand. And by the time she moved from that hospital to the other hospital,
mm-hmm.
things had shifted substantially. She was in a much, much lighter atmosphere.
Yeah.
Friends were much lighter. Family was much lighter. There was so much more joy around her. And that, my friend, is what you need. When you are in dire straits in a hospital, you need levity.
Mm-hmm.
You need lighthearted goodness, fun. You know, a friend of mine once said that the more serious something is, the more childlike he becomes to deal with. Because you want that simplicity that a child holds to be able to see, the solution.
Yes.
And in fact, that just kind of takes me to switch words, which you're going to have to listen to some of my other talkcasts that talk about switch words. There's some under Kat Talks. I don't remember what the number is on that podcast, but you can find it through the web links at blueiris.org. Anyway, the switch word, simple, is about getting to that childlike state where you can make the tough tasks easy, something that seems very difficult just come flowing very easily, because that's what kids do. They make things easy. And the tougher it is, the easier it is.
And I had never heard a thing about switch words or anything until I met you. And then you popped up with, allow find be somehow. And I just watched the universe go flip and just smooth out. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding. That's simple.
It's
wow. And so I was so fascinated by just the whole aspect of how that works. But think of it. We weren't put on this planet for it to be hard. We make it hard. It doesn't have to be hard. And, so for me, coming from a background of where it was always hard, and, here my goal, and I know I'm headed towards lighter, and I'm taking millions and billions of people with me is the way I look at it. So you do that, I was like, oh, really? Please, And it was just so fascinating and going, wow. And then I would do the dance. Allow find be somehow, do 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 do. Allow find be somehow, do 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 do. And I have to admit, that's my favorite phrase of all of them. And it's just a whole new world. So suddenly I get to learn another language.
Yes, it's so fun. And I have I offer a service where I give switch phrases for the astrological transits that happen. You can actually see those for free at the blueiris.org if you just go there to the free access, and you under the latest news you'll see the astrological transit stuff there, and you can read switch phrases for helping to balance things out. But I offer a subscription service that's like $5 a week for it, where I also, besides sending those to you on email, I create personal switch phrases for people.
Mm-hmm.
I just hook up to their energy to see what it is that they need a switch phrase for, what switch phrase comes up for them for that week, and I send it out. And there have been so many times where there have been some absolutely beautiful, fascinating switch phrases that come up with that. And one of them that came up a week or two ago, you just reminded me of when you were doing that Allow Find Be Somehow, is Oak Dance.
Come on, sing it, Allow Find Be Somehow.
Yeah, the Oak Dance oak is about being grounded, about holding, holding on to things, being strongly grounded. And dance is about feeling joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like oak dance is about being grounded in joy.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been such a fun switch phrase to play with. I will pull some of those out and give them to the general public after they've come up as a personal switch phrase for somebody, just because some of them are just absolutely amazing when they come out in what they give you. And so I love doing that. But you'll find the astrological, at least, switch phrases at blueiris.org. Actually, I think aps.blueiris.org is a direct link to the astrological and personal switch phrases, or ASP. Oh, I bet it's ASP, astrological switch phrases. So asp.blueiris.org. And you can read a little bit about what it is that I do there with that. But that is so fun. Yes, switch words are fun. Fun.
Indeed.
So are you, Jane. You're lots of fun. I like to call him Great Dane.
Yes, Catechist, whatever you say.
Anyway, we have gone, just over 45 minutes it looks like right now, and so it probably would be good to go ahead and shut this podcast down and continue on next week, if that sounds good to you.
Sounds great to me. I'd just like to leave everybody with, if you think you're getting let's be honest about this. If you feel like you're getting your ass kicked every day and you don't know what to do about it, one of the simplest things I've ever been able to show people is just to reach up, spread out, and stretch up as good as you can, and just, big stretch, and then inhale deep and exhale. And just something that's simple. If you do that 3 times, you'll find out that all of a sudden it's just not as bad as you thought it was. And you get a better sense of balance, and you can make better decisions, that kind of thing. So that's my big thought, and I'm sticking to it.
Awesome. Dane, I want to thank you. I am so happy that you have sauntered into my life and that you're doing these podcasts with me, because I think that we can give some really good information to people, and if nothing else, at least some levity, right?
That's it. And,
enjoy life.
You got to enjoy it.
Yes. Get in the spirit of enjoyment, because that's what life is here for. Enjoy what you're doing. When you find yourself in a negative state, when you find yourself contemplating all the negatives, all the why me's, all of those things, take a minute and realize that behind all of those complaints, behind every worry, behind every negative thing, there's something positive that you want. You're focused on the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in a perfect place to turn around and say, okay, so what is it that I want? My husband whines. Yeah, right, husband, yeah. Well, maybe we'll change that too. My wife whines too much. She complains. She's always griping about something that I'm saying, something that I'm doing. I can't do anything right. Okay, those are complaints. What's behind the complaint? What is it that you really want? Because you're focused on what you don't want. You're focused on complaints. You're focused on nagging. You're focused on all of those whiny things. But what is it that you want? You want a peaceful, harmonious relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And your complaints are that you don't have that? Okay, well, let's get rid of the focus on what you don't have and focus on what you do, what you want. You want a joyful, harmonious, peaceful relationship. Okay, let's keep our focus there. Let's quit complaining about all of the the things that aren't, because you know what? You're bringing it in. You're making it happen by the focus that you have.
One of the things that I took many, well, it's been, oh Lord, is it going on a decade now, doing it professionally. I'm a hypnotherapist also specializing in pain, fear, and phobia. And your subconscious, when it comes to things like I don't, or I won't, or will not, it doesn't really, it pulls those words right out, the nots and the things like that, and the don'ts. So you're always better putting yourself in the frame of mind of just leave the negatives out. See if you can get through the day with only stating things in a positive form.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of, oh, I don't like this, say, I want to do this, that kind of thing. And find out how fascinatingly difficult it can be. Actually, it can be quite the challenge. But it's also something just incredibly fun to do.
Yeah,
So
bring your consciousness around to it. Yeah. I don't want to forget. How about I want to remember?
There you go. Because if you say I don't want to forget, you just told yourself to forget.
Yes. I want to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Transmute it. Reframe it. Make it what you want, not what you don't want. I don't know how many times I have asked, well, what do you want, before I've gotten an actual what they want from people. I often will say, well, what is it that you want? Well, I want to not be here. I don't want to. I mean, and it's like, okay, you just told me what you don't want. What do you want?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you just irritate them more and more and more because they don't know, listen to me, they don't know how. They want to keep going with the negative because that's where they are. That they have to throw that negative word in there, that we used to call it depowering word. There's plenty of other ways you can say it. Mm-hmm. So, because we get stuck. It happens.
And I'll leave with one final thought. When you say I am, be prepared to be whatever it is that you said I am about. Because you are in that statement creating whatever follows. I am. Make it a very positive thing because I am is a very powerful creation. Dane, thank you very much for spending this time with me, for being my friend, for committing to working with me on these podcasts, if you can call it work, and just
I'm committed? Oh, no, I'm committed. Glad to, darling.
I look forward to next week, same time, same place, and we'll get it all together.
Oh, excellent. Wow, getting it all together. We can do that. That'll be fun. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I trust that everybody will enjoy this talkcast as much as we did.
Definitely.
Have a wonderful day.
You too, and folks, take care of yourselves. Breathe deeply and